All right, morning. Welcome, everybody. So the topic, the topic this morning is freedom, I think. Lee, is that right? Did I get the note right? Ooh, you're going to have to take over. I've got something that's not free in my throat here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what? How brilliant was that? Just incredible, as Trevor said in the chat, genius. So freedom. So where are we in terms of freedom? So if I just pick up my little bit in terms of, when I was thinking about, so what does it mean to be free? I couldn't help but think about myself as a woman, and that there are freedoms that I don't take for granted. I am afforded choices and opportunities and a sense of safety that many others haven't in the past and in the recent past. So women only got the vote in England in 1918. So less than 100, 1908, so just over 100 years ago. And so that opportunity to choose your own government, otherwise it's chosen for you, is something I am grateful for. The freedom to associate and to go where I want to go without having to always have a man with me. The freedom to own property, to not be owned, to wear clothing, to the freedom to choose careers, to work in different avenues and places that were previously only reserved for men. So these are freedoms that I fully understand have been earned and given to me from the battles fought in the past on my behalf. And I see even the difference between when I grew up and some of the limitations that I experienced, just in mindset more than anything else, and what my daughters experience, and their sense that the world is their oyster. They can go where they like, when they like, they can do what they like. That freedom of choice and those opportunities is huge for them. And then the last thing I want to say is that those freedoms are still a battle that continue to be fought, literally, by women for their lives. So in a World Health Organization article in 2021, so March, so just the other day, the statistics are that 1 in 3 women in the world experience some form of physical or sexual violence, primarily women who are in the lower income brackets. And those figures were, of course, exacerbated during the pandemic, when freedom to leave or to move or to go somewhere else or to hide was not available. So that's my little soapbox for today around freedom. Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you. Yeah, all very important things. So it's interesting. Well, it will be interesting to see how everybody's perspectives are perhaps different, perhaps the same. I don't know. So, Tabitha, I'm going to come to you next. What does freedom mean to you?
Okay, what freedom means for me is that, freedom is not an experience, because when you say that freedom is an experience, you imply that it's occasional and, one time and conditional, freedom is a state of mind, it is a mindset, it is routines, it is habits, it it is something that is continuous, you know, and it is constant, and it is a mode of existence, you know. What freedom is to me, freedom is just living, you know, just pure living, you know. It is expression without constraints, and it is kind of like a subjective concept, you know, in the sense that you experience freedom. Freedom is the ability to go after your dreams, like Lee said, you know, and freedom doesn't encroach on other people's freedom, you know. Um, Freedom is to live life without any fear, but also to take responsibility for your own life. Freedom is to be you fully, you know, and it is purpose without limitation. Um, I've actually, you know, over the last few months, what I've seen is that, you know, the place that we are living in right now, you know, planet Earth, this is heaven, you know, heaven is a state of mind. Heaven is not some kind of utopia that you get to when you're dead or when you cease to live. Heaven is now, here. It is a state of mind. It is freedom, you know. And God actually gave us the mind, you know, to actually create things so that we can create our own heaven. Yes, because, you know, thoughts are actually life energy. Now, when you have the freedom to actually create, because like I said, freedom is expression, you know, and when you have that, you are living in heaven because you are content with everything you are, and you can create what you want to see in reality. So freedom for me is purpose without limitation. It is to live, it is to be abundant in your mindset, you know. Um, it is a mode of existence, like I said, you know. It is to be you. Freedom is freedom is life. Freedom is life. I think that's where I'll just end it for today. So thank you, Adam.
Great, thanks to be some powerful thoughts there, Will, and so I really like that. So, good morning, Laura. Glad to have you back. I mean, missing you. Where have you been? I know it's 2 a.m. where you are, but
It is. Yes, I've been busy. I've been thinking about the freedom, the liberty that I have to choose whether or not to come to this meeting. And the opportunity that I can. And when I think about freedom, I think back to the foundation upon which this country, the United States, is founded. And it reads, all men are created equal. Okay. One might assume that, well, you know what they say about assumptions. One might assume that that includes all people, not so much. And the fact that women had to earn the right to vote. Well, if I'm included in all men are created equal, then it makes sense that I have to earn the right to vote, like I have to prove myself. Or women as a cohort are not held in such high esteem. That's scary. And I do not take for granted the good fortune that I have. The same as any child, hopefully doesn't, any person, it doesn't matter what gender. And when I think about that, what came up to me, what came up in my mind was, if you've ever heard the term or the phrase rule of thumb, the rule of thumb, okay? It's a historical connotation, the legacy of that is that legally, a husband could beat his wife with anything no thicker than the width of his thumb, legally. No matter to what degree or extent the damages might ensue. That scares me And at least in this country, I can't speak to others, and I certainly wasn't of that particular time frame. It's just the history that the country, the United States, the segregation, the prejudice, the discrimination regarding freedom, freedom to drink water where I'd like to, the freedom to break bread with whom I would like to, the freedom to share a bed with whom I'd like to. I don't take these freedoms lightly at all. And at least for me today, I refuse to stand next to anyone who's forced to kneel. Because when I kneel with them and help them rise up, that's freedom. And sometimes that's all I can offer is a hand, a helping hand to lift up. And today I choose to rise up. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, some powerful thoughts there. So, Ed, are you part of All Men?
Yeah. First of all, can I say that video traumatized me, having to watch that Lego figure being run over by a tank. But I'll get over it. I was very interested in what Lee was saying, because I think, men forget that women have a different struggle from us. It's quite interesting, actually, although women got the vote in about 1918, it wasn't until about 1970 that the tax laws changed and women were no longer considered a man's chattel. And I even today, I hear of people in business going for a loan and the bank manager expects the husband to be the one applying for the loan rather than the wife. So those, yeah. And I know, I'm a runner, I can run anywhere, I'm free to run anywhere, women aren't. But what I find really fascinating is that when my daughter lives in Singapore, it's considered to be a less free society, yet she can walk home late at night in complete safety. And I have no concerns about her safety in Singapore. I would have concerns about her walking home late at night in my hometown. I have concerns about me walking home late. Sorry, no, but never mind. But when the subject of freedom came up, the first thing I thought about, and I think we've touched on this before, actually, because I remember mentioning this before, was the words of the song Me and Bobby McGee by Chris Christopherson. But I remember the Janis Joplin version was released just after she died. And there's words in there that freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And I always used to think that was wrong. Because when I was young, to me, freedom was not having responsibilities. It was not having possessions. It was just doing what I wanted to do and going everywhere and all that sort of stuff. But that changed when I got married and had children, because those responsibilities were the thing that enriched my life the most. So I actually do not want to be free. I want to have responsibilities. I want to have ties. I don't need possessions. Well, actually, I do. When I felt the freest, I suppose, was when I was wandering around Scotland without a care in the world with my tent on my back. But I needed my tent and I needed my stove. So I think we always are tied to possessions. And then I thought about some of the friends I've got that walked away from their responsibilities, walked away from their families because they wanted their freedom. And I think they condemned themselves to being in prison for the rest of their lives, knowing what they've done. And they didn't gain any freedom, but they lost an awful lot of pleasure. And then finally, the interesting thing is, talking about votes, there is one group in the United Kingdom who don't have a vote. And that is prisoners that have been convicted with a sentence longer than a year. And I have never understood that. Never understood that. I can understand, we're not free because we have to comply with the rules of society if we want to belong to society. In the UK, we drive on the left. So I'm forced to drive on the left. Unless I come to South Africa, then it's optional. That's a joke, by the way. But, you know, and also I have to wash. If I want to have friends and I want to be around people, it's important I don't smell too much. So there are certain things I have to do if I want to belong to society. So I'm never going to be free. And my final thought is, we are not free. We are just the playthings of cats.
Absolutely, Ed. Yeah, cats rule the world without a shadow of a doubt. And if you have any doubt, go and get yourself a cat, and you'll find out very, very quickly. Yeah. So, and yeah, on that note, Ed, yeah, you know, also traffic lights are simply a suggestion. Yeah, most people think they're just a pretty way to light up an intersection. You know, it's doesn't really mean much here either. So we we have all sorts of interesting adaptations. So freedom is simply the way you want to drive. Yeah. So Jasper, which way do you drive?
Morning. Yeah, I was thinking at one stage it was almost a status symbol to drive a SUV or a 4x4 here in Sandton, but now the way the roads are starting to dilapidate, it's becoming a necessity. But yeah, I think the topic of freedom, and Tabiso, can I just say, I really like your smile. You know, that to me is that's your feature. You can go and just go and take pictures of yourself and sell your smile. But yeah, and it's great to meet young people with that kind of you know, expression of life is what I'm going to make of it, and I've chosen to make it a good life, etc. And we need guys like that. And it was yesterday. I was in a very brief discussion, but there's a young man with his team. They're busy putting in solar alternative hybrid energy, which is a mixture of during the day you use solar and at night you use electricity. But they came up with a very unique business model where they found funders to actually fund the equipment, and then they sell the solar energy, which they then get for free back to you. But at half the price of Eskom, and because you don't have to lay out the capital, it's a win-win all around. So we started to chat, and I don't know how the conversation came, but he then brought up how this whole race card that people love to play here in South Africa is so, you know, not working anymore for his generation. He said because he didn't grow up in apartheid. He grew up, experienced the freedom of past 1994, but now because of people still making decisions of how they felt deprived of before 1994, and now they feel like, let me catch up and let me be corrupt as fast as I can while the money still lasts. They're messing it up for the so-called free people who now lived after 1994. So I was just thinking from his perspective how he is seeing the so-called freedom, and he's not being too impressed by what he sees in and around him. Then I was, my mind was just playing on the word freedom, and the dom is normally for dominion. So it's not Afrikaans dom, stupid, but it's dominion. So dominion is your ability to rule or control your environment. And so do we have choices? Can we choose to control our environment? And I think that's the big challenge always for, and why entrepreneurs are so scarce and such a good commodity to look for, because they have the ability to come into any situation and see a need, see what resources are available, know a way of putting it together in a sustainable way, and voila, there's a new sustainable business. And that's how life is moving forward. The ability to look at so-called problems that people don't know the solution to, and it's actually right staring them in the face, but they don't have that ability to see. So is freedom purely your external circumstances, or is it that internal world that Tabiso is talking about of how do you choose to see? And I know much of our conversation here is about your choice to see, but you know, you don't know what you don't know. So if you've not been trained to see correctly, you will still not see. So so it's almost that yes, you're free, but you don't know it. And I'm thinking of that when I was much younger, and it doesn't seem like we have it anymore here in South Africa, but these traveling circuses. And then they would have a couple of animals and cages and things to also entertain you late at night. But during the day, you could go and visit the circus and engage with it. And then there would be elephants. And the elephant would be tied down on his leg to a peg with a band or something. But you can look at that, and this mighty strong elephant could literally, with one pluck of his leg, pull out that peg and go wherever he wants to go. But when he have that sensation of there's something tying my leg, because when he was very young and much weaker, that was a massive chain and very strongly connected to the ground. As hard as he tried, he couldn't move that chain. And it's now ingrained in his being that I am tied, I am bound. So I'm just wondering how many people, although, you know, previous generations have fought for them and do whatever it takes to get them free, their limitations are so ingrained to them that doesn't matter what the exterior tells them, internally they still feel I'm not free. So how do we solve that conundrum? So with that, I'll give it back to you, Ivan. Solve it for us.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Well, I'm not going to solve it. I'm just going to hand it over to 1-2C. So, Trevor. And he can't find the right button. So yeah, if he hasn't got the freedom to choose an unmute button, we'll have to just.
Yeah, I think I found it. But just I am so impressed with Thabiso and Pharrell Williams, is it? Was that Pharrell? I think it was. I now think there are two guys on this platform that are pure genius. And I better say two women as well, otherwise I'm going to be nailed here. And then a couple of old farts that throw some comments in between. But listen, you know what? I said on Monday that I was so concerned on that free expression session that we had. Oh, isn't that nice? Wisdom's free expression session on a Monday. Which is almost a surfing term. It is a surfing term, free expression session. And that now takes me back to being in the surf. There's nothing better than being free in the surf and not worrying about every one of those landlubbers that are stuck on land. That's the most free anyone can ever be. But the negativity that I picked up over the weekend and watching all of these different things happening in Karachi, Pakistan, and military might in China and all of that sort of thing, there's no freedom there. And I'm an ex-vet as well. There was no freedom. I was conscripted in. I had freedom of choice. I could actually illegally not go to the army and either be locked up or have to flee the country. So I had no freedom in those younger days, freedom of choice. If I had freedom of choice, I wouldn't have gone to the army. I would have just stayed in the surf, simple as that. So I think freedom is priceless. And the ability to be able to think, to be able to research information, to actually get onto forums like this and get different points of view, although they're stupid points of view, Ed, you and I both know, other people don't think like we think, Ed, so I'm not pointing a finger at you, but I know you made an assumption, which is an S out of you and me. Are you counting your fingers, Laura? You know, the ability to be able to express an opinion and not have other people take exception to it and want to take your head off has got to be the most priceless commodity you can ever own. And I love the direction that Ed went down. I think it went down about perhaps giving up some of your freedom for taking responsibility for other people. Well, I think that is the most exceptional freedom of choice, to be able to take the decision to become responsible jointly with other people. And I think that's what marriage is about. And then having kids is the freedom of choice to be able to have kids and know that you are taking responsibility for these kids going forward. Oh, geez, and the biggest freedom, go and get yourself a granddaughter and then start thinking about paying to get them into university and start looking after them. Yeah, so free. Is free actually free? If it is priceless, does that mean that freedom has a price beyond the price of anything that exists on this planet right now? So what's the most expensive thing that exists on this planet right now? And is this beyond that price? That's why we can't put a price to it. I have the freedom just to go off in any direction that I want to go, Ed, and I don't care what you say about it. That's me.
I don't think there's anything free. You got to steal it. That's why you're a pirate. So yeah, nothing's free in this world. I think it's all an illusion. But life is an illusion, so it can be whatever you want it to be. So freedom is an interesting concept. You know, we think we're free, but I'm not too sure that we ever are. Like Ed said, you know, who truly wants to be free? Because if you're free, you go where the wind blows you. You float around like a balloon. I had an uncle that did exactly that, Ed. So yeah, I've also come across people like that. Had a great job, had a great family, had a great house in a great suburb, and just suddenly down tools and walked away from it all. Very strange situation, and lived the rest of his life scrounging and living off others. So yeah, I don't know whether his freedom really got him what he thought it was going to when he did that. Yeah, freedom. I think it is. It's an interesting concept, because even when you think you're free, you're probably not truly free. And the question is, do you want it? We all think we want it. We all think we want those things, or at certain points in our lives we do. When we get old and wise like Ed, we realize that maybe we don't. Yeah, Trevor thinks he's free, but he's totally bound by the wrists and the ankles. No freedom at all there, you know. And on the one end of the scale, his wife tells him what to do all the time. And the other end of the scale, his granddaughter makes him do what he needs to do. So there's no freedom there at all. So yeah, he's living that illusion. just keep with it. So, right, that's enough rambling from me, I think. Lee, where do we go from freedom? Back to jail, I suppose.
Yeah, don't pass go. Don't collect 200 Rand, 200 bucks. You know, this today is a great opportunity and day in the life of wisdoms. Edward has put together an incredible array of speakers from around the world: Singapore, US, UK, South Africa, people who have run in extraordinary places, who have achieved incredible things, have overcome personal hurdles and struggles, and they're going to be sharing their stories, their insights, their tales from the trails. That's the summit that we are hosting at 10 o'clock UK time. That's GMT +1. And let's talk about running tomorrow. Whatever it is about running, and hopefully you'll get some insights from joining the summit today. But there's running. Let's talk running tomorrow, whatever comes to mind. So that'll be just an overflow from today's summit.
Great, thanks, Lee. Yeah, I think it's going to be an absolutely great experience. So don't run away from it. Don't run away from us. Come back. See us then. See us later. See us tomorrow. And yeah, maybe you trail your tail, or I don't know, sit on your tail and watch the trail. But we'll see some of you. Yeah, Laura, I quite agree. Yeah, your head is just going round and round in circles. Yeah. So yeah, see you. Less than 3 hours, 2.5 hours from now. Is that right, Ed?
I think so. Yeah, I've got no idea what time it is. What time are you guys opening the room up? So I'll get in early.
Lee, I think it's on your Zoom
Yeah.
idea.
So it's 2:45